Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Alexandra Stockwell. I'm a physician and an intimate marriage expert, and I specialize in showing couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships. I've been married for 25 years. My husband and I have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing relationship. If you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how now. Let's dive in. I've been thinking about you, and I'm curious, do you follow Jada Pinkett and Will Smith? I have to say that when I've been asked what's my dream interview, I would love so much to be interviewed at the red table. I love those conversations. I love them for a lot of reasons. First of all, they're fascinating topics. They're universally relevant despite focusing on particular people's circumstances. And they go deep. They go really deep. And I also adore seeing the 3 generations. My own mother passed in 2002, and I knew her and my grandparents and 3 of my great-grandparents very well. But I became the oldest person in my family in my 30s, and it touches something in me when I see the Red Table Talk and how the 3 women, Willow, Jada, and Gam, they are so connected with one another, and yet they really each have their own biography, their own journey, their own perspective. It's so beautiful. So getting back to Jada and Will, they are both incredible people, super attractive, in the public eye. They've each really had their own accomplishments, and together, their marriage is super intriguing. They got married, I meant to look it up before I started recording. I think in 97. I'm not sure. My husband and I got married in 1996, so I know that they're plus or minus 25 years together. And they say some pretty incredible things about marriage that go against convention. And yet, I believe the way that they keep it juicy, keep it hot, keep it incredible, dynamic, and really fulfilling, it's something you can do too, even though your marriage looks really different. So let me be clear. I think that the most important thing for making things really passionate for the long term is for both you and your partner to agree on the basis of your marriage, on the foundation for being together. A long time ago, marriage was really just about an exchange of property, dowry in exchange for a marriage, And in political times not that long ago, marriages were to keep peace in the region, certainly in Europe in the aristocratic circles. So it's really a relatively modern thing that marriage happens for love. And our desire to marry for love and our capacity to live a long marriage for love do not match up. There is a gap there. And so I think it's really important to be clear on the foundation, the context for why you're together. Because if you're together for financial convenience, that can be very useful. That can create something very important for both of you. But that doesn't necessarily lead to an intimate marriage. It leads to security, but it doesn't lead to a juicy, fulfilling, passionate marriage. if you're together because you want to have children, if you're together because you're from the same culture or the same hometown, all of those things are really good for bringing people together initially, but they are nowhere near enough to have a dynamic, alive, intimate, really fulfilling connection with exploration in the bedroom and out. So, what creates that? I think the thing that creates that is a mutual commitment to individual and shared growth. Because when you are willing to commit to your own growth and to your partner's growth, you don't really know what's going to happen, but you can be sure that it's going to be engaging and meaningful, and you're going to learn a lot from it, and it's going to draw you closer together. In fact, one of the really important modules in my program, the Aligned and Hot Marriage Program, it's all about how to identify and spell out and commit to the foundation of your relationship. So that is something that you both are clear about. It's an exercise which is always so enlightening and revealing for the couples who do it, because they've already been together for a while. Typically, they've already said, I do, I want to be with you. They often have children together, but to really take the time and consider, what is it that draws us together now, other than the commitment we made a while ago? How do we make our marital commitment alive and dynamic and evolving with us while still staying committed? It's a really great exploration, which you can find in that module in the Aligned and Hot Marriage Program. And for right now, I want to tell you, when my husband and I got together, we were very clear that our biggest commitment was not comfort. It wasn't financial stability. It wasn't even what country we would live in. It was a commitment to our own and one another's personal growth. And I tell you, that has led to some of the most amazing adventures. We followed a spiritual con artist who's now in federal prison. We have lived in many different homes because we grew and expanded in a lot of ways, and it made sense to move on to the next opportunity. We thought we'd have 2 children, and we have 4 incredible children. There's so many things that have happened that we never would have dreamed of, that in a way came naturally because we are a yes to our own growth. And I'm doing this episode speaking about Jada Pinkett and Will Smith because even though they use different language, that is the foundation of their relationship as well. In fact, I read an article recently where Will was saying that they have spent a lot of time discussing this question: what is the perfect way to interact as a couple? They have individually and together delved into what their perfect relationship is, what the kinds of interactions they have are that would be best. And in my language, that's the 2 of them looking for the context and the foundation of their relationship, which would be one that they can actually trust long past a piece of paper and a commitment set in front of friends and family. And look, for many people, a commitment set in front of friends and family, that is enough to stay together for the rest of your lives. But it isn't enough to have deep, engaging conversations, emotional intimacy, and have that carry over into unexpected explorations and vulnerability and all kinds of juiciness in the realms of sensuality and eroticism. But when you're clear on the purpose of your commitment, oh, that can absolutely create a context for doing so. So back to Will Smith, what he says, and I'm quoting, is, "The unconditional support to me is the highest definition of love. So his answer to the question, what is the perfect way to interact as a couple, is the unconditional support, to me, is the highest definition of love. And in their conversations, they have determined that for them, marriage can't be a prison. That's a direct quote. Marriage for us can't be a prison. And it's in that context that they together decided to become not monogamous. And for another couple that I've coached, they realized they didn't know why, like they knew what had brought them together, but they didn't know what would be something that would keep them together. And so while they didn't ask the question the way Will Smith asked it, they were asking their version of what is the perfect way to interact as a couple, or perhaps it would be better to say, what is the right way for us to interact as a couple? And these clients of mine, when they asked themselves that question, it did not lead to becoming not monogamous. It actually led to them moving from the city to a small farm in upstate New York, where they founded a retreat center. And they went from both being corporate, well, one was an executive, one was mid-level, and they brought all of those skills to the marketing and development of this retreat center, which made room for them to each meditate each day and be in nature. And the answer to this question, what is the right relationship to interact as a couple for them, was to be one another's personal and professional support in pursuing their dream of being able to live a life more in nature and with more spirituality. And you better believe that their intimate time was a lot hotter because they were living in alignment with what they had decided the purpose of their relationship was. Now, I have another couple that I've coached. And when we first started working together, he was an ER doctor and she a hematology oncologist. And he worked in a tertiary care center, meaning he saw a lot of gunshot wounds, a lot of various extreme circumstances and tragedies whenever he worked. And she, as an oncologist, had some very happy stories, but she also really had a lot of very emotionally draining, challenging experiences at work, which she didn't really spend the time feeling how emotionally draining it was because she showed up for her patients. But anyway, when I started coaching the two of them, what was clear is that one of the really foundational aspects of their marriage was being with one another and providing comfort, like being a soft landing pad, an oasis amidst the very real emotional and other stressors of their work life. Well, that's a very beautiful glue. That's a beautiful way for a relationship to be, but it really only serves if your goal is to go from stressed to surviving with comfort and companionship. But if you want to go from surviving to flourishing and juicy and passionate, well, keep the comfort, but it's got to be so much more. So while working with this couple, the ER doctor and the hematology oncologist, it was a very tender process for them to have the courage to explore what foundation, what kind of agreement they could have about the purpose of their marriage that would bring them the comfort they'd been experiencing, but also give them access to the passion they yearned for. And what they came up with was a few different ideas. One is that our marriage provides comfort and affirmation for both of us. And our marriage is a place where we have fun no matter what. So even when work is super challenging, they each find a way to shift into having fun and being silly and letting imagination and whimsy run wild. And they also chose to treat their marriage as a kind of alchemical place where they could turn lead into gold, meaning they would bring home whatever their experiences were. And in our work together, they learned how to transform and alchemize and be liberated from the burden of their work lives. And they couldn't do it individually, but once they learned how to do it together, and often bringing the rawness and intensity of emotions into lovemaking, they both became more present at work and a whole lot more connected with one another. So if becoming not monogamous speaks to you, great. But what I really hope you take from the example of Will and Jada and this conversation is how important it is to clarify what keeps you together. And is it something that's going to make for a really juicy relationship? And if it's not, consider what would. And if you're not sure, by all means, reach out. The Aligned and Hot Marriage program is such a wonderful, wonderful program to take you step by step through this exploration. It's not a threatening program, but it's a very deep and precise series of exercises and instruction that will allow the two of you to have amazing conversations and really be authentic in identifying what you really want to share with one another beyond what you already share with one another. And you can find that at www.alignedhotmarriage.com. I hold a Q&A, a kind of office hours every Friday. So I look forward to meeting you once you join in.
Thank you for listening to the Intimate Marriage Podcast. For more information about Alexandra, her book, and her coaching services, go to theintimatemarriagepodcast.com.